everyone. Today we're going to be working on building these planters. So what you do is you fill the bottom part that's solid with dirt, and you put a plant in there and it grows up and around all this cage. And if you make more than one of them, they can actually stack inside of each other. So this one can stack on the side here, or it can go on top. And you can put, if you have a third one, you can put the third one here, and they can all just stack together and form a wall of plants. So it'd be really cool looking. I look forward to printing a lot more of them and having a wall of plants in my classroom. So let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, let's look at it. So it is actually made, at the bottom is a square, and then on each side of the square is a hexagon, so a six-sided shape, and there's four of those, one on each side of the square. Then there's a row of squares again, except these squares are turned on their tips, so they're like 45 degrees, but you can see that they're actually squares. And then beyond the squares is another row or ring of hexagons, and then the very top is another square. So it's like square, hexagon, square, hexagon, square. Pretty cool. Let's get to it. First, I'm going to save my file. I'm going to call this this is called a truncated, the shape is called a truncated octahedron. So octahedron, that's what I'm going to call mine. And I'm going to call this video version because I need to know which one I recorded for the video. And I'm going to keep this in this thing called hexagon square planter, but that's what I'm going to call it. You call yours what you want. I'm going to hit save. Awesome. Now I've saved it. I'm modeling in centimeters. You may want to model in centimeters as well. If you're not in centimeters, click on this little button, come over here and change it to centimeters, and then click OK. First thing we're going to do is create that square on the bottom. So I'm going to click on my base layer, and I'm going to draw a square, but I'm going to draw a center rectangle square because my whole thing has these circular pattern to it. It's like a revolved pattern, and we'll deal with that in a second, but we want to make sure that our first thing is centered on there, just like that. And I'm going to do 5 centimeters for the top side, and I'm not going to type in the left-hand side. I'm just going to let it be whatever it is. And then what I'm going to do, I want this to be a square. So I could have typed in 5 down here as well, but instead I'm going to use the equal constraint, and I'm going to say make this line equal to that line. So the equal constraint just makes the two things you click on next equal to each other if it can. So now if I come in here and hit escape to leave the equal tool, if I change this to 6 centimeters, it makes both sides bigger because they're going to be stuck to be equal to each other. Incidentally, 6 centimeters is the biggest you can go. If you make it more than 6 centimeters at the base, it's going to be too big to print on our printers. So make sure you stay to 6 or below. 6 makes a really big one. This is a 5 centimeter one. This is what I'm making today. All right. You can go lower than that too. You could go probably down to even 3 or 4 centimeters and still get a decent little planter out of it. But I'm going 5. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude this out. But before I do that, I want to add a parameter for thickness because I want to have this be consistent across everything. So the name here is going to be thickness. And I'm going to do 0.5 centimeters and click OK. And OK. So I'm going to extrude. I'm going to type in T for thickness, hit enter to put the thickness term in there, and then enter one more time to finalize extrusion. That's my base. That's this part. Next thing I want to do is I want to start making all the hexagons that go around it. To do that, I'm going to actually rotate around, and I'm going to use this back face back here. So I'm looking to get to this back side of my model. And I'm going to come up here, and I need to create a sketch of a hexagon at this weird angle like this. To do that, I need to first create a construction plane because the construction plane, I can change its angle. And I'll show you how to do that. So here on construction, whoops, cancel that. I hit the wrong thing. Hit the construct menu. Come down here to plane at angle. It's going to ask you, I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to go back to home real quick. And I'm going to rotate it back around to the back side. I want this back lower edge. You don't have to start with this one, but I think it's going to be easier for you to see what I'm doing if I choose this edge. So I'm going to click on this edge. And now I need to rotate this up. I want to create it up at this angle like this. So I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to look at it from the right. So I'm going to click on the right side of my cube here. And I want this to be up to 54 degrees, and it's going to actually be a very specific number. I'm going to type in 54 point, and it is 73561. 54.73561. Depending on which way Fusion guessed you want to go, it may need to be negative. You want it to be on this bottom corner and angled up. If yours is angled down right now, then you need to change yours to a negative 54. If you're lost, let me know. I'll come help you. Okay, and then we're going to click OK to set that plane. I'm going to click back on my home view, and you can see I've got this angled plane coming out the back now. That's what I'm going to draw my hexagon on. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this construction plane. That created a sketch on it. I need to copy in, so I'm going to tip it up a little bit. I need to copy in or project in where this square right down here at the bottom touches my plane. So I'm going to do project. I'm going to go P for project. I'm going to click on this bottom line of the square back here right on my plane, and then I'm going to click OK. And now I've drawn that. I'm going to be able to now turn my body off. So I'm going to open up here and turn off body 1. Now I'm at this weird angle. I'm not sure. I want to be square to my sketch. The best way to do that, because I'm at this weird angle, is to come here and do a look at command. So click on that down here at the bottom. Come to your sketches folder, open your sketches folder, and then click on your sketch 2. And what that means, it's going to look at sketch 2, so it's going to square you up on sketch 2. Now I'm nice and square. Now I can use it in a way that I'm familiar with. I'm going to move it down a little bit. I'm going to come up here and do a create. And I'm going to go to polygon. And I want an edge polygon. And I want the edge of this polygon to be the same size as the square I just made. So right along there, I'm going to click and then drag up, and it makes a 6-sided shape. If I wanted more or fewer sides, I could change that number 6 to some other number, but I actually want 6, so I'm just going to hit enter and it draws it for me. And now I'm going to turn my body 1 back on, and I'm going to go back to the home view, and you can see I've drawn that hexagon. I'm going to extrude that hexagon, and I want to make sure I'm going to extrude into this base piece. So I want to be coming in this direction like this. And I'm going to do this thickness, TH enter. And then over here, instead of cut, I want to say new body. I don't want to join yet. And then I'm going to say OK. And now I've got 2 bodies. And I'm going to name these. So this is called the base, because otherwise I'm going to have a bunch of bodies I don't know what they are. And this is called, I'm going to call this hex 1. So hex 1 is hex layer 1. So this is that first layer of hexagons. Now, I could do that same process. I could create a plane at angle, plane at angle, click on this edge of the square, create a sketch, draw a hexagon, extrude that hexagon. But if I recognize the fact that this thing is really just a circular pattern of hexagons going around the center axis, I can do a really cool thing, which is check this out. I can go create, and I can come down here to pattern, circular pattern. I can click here and say I want to pattern bodies, not faces. And then I'm going to choose the object. That's the object I want to do. And I need to choose the axis. And if I'm not sure, I could just try stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, what about the red one? I wonder if I click here on the red one, what does it do? Oh, it does it down this way. Well, I don't want that. I want it around this way, right? So I'm like, okay, so that's the wrong axis. I'm going to unselect it over here, click X. And I'm going to say, okay, what about the green one? Oh, man. Okay, that's pretty cool. It did it around like that. That's cool, but that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to X that one off. I'm going to try, well, what about the blue one? And sure enough, that's what I want, but I want 3 of them, I want 4 of them, not 3 of them. So I'm going to up arrow there once and go like that. And now, oof, that looks pretty good. I'm going to click OK, and look how well they lined up. That looks fantastic. Now, if yours didn't line up, that means you got that angle on that first construction plane wrong. Ask me and I will help you. Now notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hex 1s now. Those are all the hexagons for layer 1. So I'm going to leave those alone. Next thing to do now is to draw these squares in here along these 2 edges of the hexagon. So again, I can't just draw a square in space. I need to have a plane to draw it on. So I'm going to go to construction plane. And this time I'm going to do plane through two edges because I want this plane to touch that edge and that edge. We want those two outer edges. And you can see it's drawn that plane for me. I'm going to say OK. And now I can actually draw a sketch on that. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to grab this and draw a sketch on it. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to get a rectangle tool. I'm going to grab this 3-point rectangle. I'm going to start, well, I got to actually project on my geometry first. So I'm going to do project. I need this corner, and this corner drawn on my sketch. Whoops. I'm going to hit P for project. It didn't work for whatever reason. I want this corner, and this corner on my sketch. I could also put these lines on there, but I don't need the lines. I really just need the points. It wouldn't be wrong to put the lines. In fact, you could do anything that had these lines on it. And I'm going to say, OK, there. Now I've got those 3 points. Now I can come here, grab my rectangle, do a 3-point rectangle tool. I'm going to click on that first point, and that point. And all of a sudden, I've got a rectangle I'm ready to extrude. So I'm going to hit E for extrude. I'm going to see which way it's going. It's going the way I want. I want to go into the planter. And I'm going to go in a thickness. And TH, enter. And instead of cut, I want to do new body. And I'm going to click OK. Except this one I actually want to cut a hole in. So let's go back and do that. So I extruded a little early, so I'm going to come back here and I'm going to right click on my sketch here. I'm going to do edit sketch. And instead of extruding right away, I'm going to actually do an offset and make another rectangle on the inside. So I'm going to grab my offset tool, click on this outer edge, and I'm going to bring that in a thickness, enter. And now when I go to, and I'm going to say finish sketch, it's still solid because I need to come back here and fix my extrusion. So I'm going to right click on my extrusion, edit feature, and I'm going to uncheck this middle part so it doesn't extrude it. It just extrudes the outside edges. And then I'm going to say OK. Now I've got that done. I can hit it back out to home and you can see I've got that first square done. Now I could repeat that process over again and do it 4 times all the way around, or I could just do create, pattern, and a circular pattern. And now I'm going to say bodies is what I'm patterning. I'm going to click on the body I want to pattern. I'm going to say, okay, what axis do I want to pattern around? Click on axis, and I want to pattern around this blue one here. And I want to do it 4 times. And you can see it just put 3 more of them in there. I'm going to click OK. And there it is. Now I did make a mistake here. I should have named this before I patterned it. So what I'm going to do here is take my timeline down at the bottom, move it back 1 step before I patterned it. And I hope this works. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. So I'm going to call this square, S-Q-U-A-R-E, 2 for layer 2. And I'm going to say enter. And then I'm going to take my history tool and bring it back towards the present. And nope, it didn't. I was hoping it would pick it up, but it didn't. So I would need to do square 2, square 2, and square 2. Enter. All right, awesome. Now we've got our first 3 layers done. Well, in our next video, we'll start with the layer of hexagons here and then the top layer. And then I think we might even just be ready to print this thing pretty quickly. All right, hang in there. Great job. We'll see you soon.